The first thing that comes to mind is all the things we can use to replace alcohol to achieve the same effect and a greater effect. And yeah, you witnessed that musician come on stage, and his performance would have united everyone and created this sense of awe and this sense of unity. And because everyone had full frontal lobe activity, they would be able to pay better attention, connect with each other better, respect each other more, and I think encourage more of that emotional intensity. Like I see fun, I see joy, I see all of those as skills. And what do you want to do in life? Do you want to develop a skill, or do you want to rely on the wisping nature of life? Like, life doesn't care about you. Life's gonna throw shit at you. Life, like, we are not the center of the universe, right? And so there's the neuroscience of it, right? Like the frontal lobe activity. When we've all had this experience where we're sober, we're clear-eyed, and we can have a deep connection with someone because our attention is totally there.
Welcome to the 1000 Days Sober podcast. My name is Lee Davy. I am not an alcoholic. I refuse to be anonymous. I am someone who lives a self-led life, alcohol-free as fuck, and I spend every waking moment of that life helping other people do the same, like right now. What if joy isn't a mood you wait for, but a skill that you can practice, share, and scale? Today, I am joined by Jacques Martiquet. I think I got that right. Jacques, I hope I did. The party scientist whose mission is to turn ordinary moments into connection-fueled, alcohol-free as fuck experiences. We get into why music calms the nervous system and unlocks social engagement, how psychological safety makes joy contagious, and the simple social risks that transform awkward rooms into thriving communities. If crowds, phones, or old drinking environments leave you on edge, this conversation gives you the tools. You will learn how to use sound and attention to regulate your body on the spot, create safety with eye contact, tone, and presence so other people open up, to replace the reward drink with real rewards that elevate energy, not numb it, and lead joyful interactions without being the loudest person in the room. Jack's lens is practical. He has led thousands of sober parties and joy boot camps across 15 plus countries after starting out as a festival medic who saw firsthand how substances fracture connection. Now he teaches leaders and communities to become joy makers. No alcohol required. So if you're ready to trade status for aliveness, fear for play, and isolation for tribe, you are in the right place. I'm going to shut the hell up and leave you in the capable hands of the very joyful, the very lovely, the amazing party scientist, Jacques Martiquet.
So nice to be here.
Hey. I like the disco ball.
Yeah, I got a lot of fun Zoom items here, including a recent gift.
Oh yeah,
Check
what is
this
it?
out.
What is that?
I don't really know. It's some sort of squash.
I was going to say it looks like a squashed squash.
It's a GMO squash.
Actually, I'm in California right now, and my usual home is the UK. And one of the things I notice when I go around the market in California is all the fruit and vegetables like supersized. Like, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, there's no way that peach should be that big, right? Like, it's not right, is it? There's something wrong there.
The nation of more. More stuff, more calories, more status, more wealth, more achievements.
Yeah.
I'm not too. I mean to segue into things about joy. I'm not too into more. I'm trying to unlearn my obsession with more.
Good. Well, we could talk about that because I'm trying to do the same. But I want to start by asking you a random question, and maybe we could segue the random question into joy. Let's see what it is. You ready for it?
Oh my gosh, you don't even know what it is yet?
I don't know what it is. I
shuffled it. I love it. All right, let's do it.
If you could only have one medium in your life, which would it be? Art, film, literature, or music?
I'm sure you can guess my
I'm
response.
gonna guess music. I'm gonna guess music.
Yeah, I believe music. So I've gone to 15 countries with my boombox. I'll
Uh-huh.
travel with my it's called a soundbox. And people who don't speak English, whether I'm like in Puerto Rico or like France or anywhere I go, I will play music and people will connect and we will unite and rejoice. And I may not be able to connect with them intellectually, but it's shown me that dance and song, these are just so like they came before language, right? So music is a universal human language.
Let me just grab something actually. So I am rereading for the second time. Stephen, he's probably going to get
Let's
blurred, right? The Pocket Guide to
see it.
Polyvagal Theory by Stephen Porges, and talks about one of the one of the one of the things that destabilizes your nervous system and puts you into fight or flight is low frequency sounds. So he says there's a connection between the nervous system and the inner ear muscles. So what I think's happening when you're there putting music, when you're like using music and interspersing that into your job, your healing, um, is you're actually healing people's nervous systems. You're actually playing the music and it's making them actually feel calm. I imagine there's a bit at the beginning where they feel a little bit fight or flighty, right? Because it's like, oh my God, I got to dance, and they get in their own head. But
Yeah.
once the music starts going, it's hitting those inner ear muscles and it's actually calming their nervous system. So that's why I think music is so great.
Yeah, I have I'm excited about what you just shared because there's so many ways we can use music to change our emotional state, to
100%.
foster social bonding. One thing that's really intriguing, and this is from the Huberman Lab podcast, there's an episode that goes deep into music, and it turns out when you listen to music, your testosterone drops, and the hypothesis is that music was this way to overcome conflict and cooperate. It was this tool to bond with each other. And testosterone is, more associated with like aggression and competition. And so I found that super intriguing. And so if you lift weights, you don't want to listen to music because it drops your testosterone. The second thing I'll say is, um, immediately what I think of, I live here in this, I call this place the biohacking den because I'm obsessed with health science. And when people come into the biohacking den for the first time, I bring them through a ceremony which involves jumping on a trampoline. I put a medal over their head. And then I give them these headphones, and it's really relaxing meditation music. And they do some red light therapy. And so people think that, oh, the party scientist, he's just trying to raise the energy to the maximum. And what I've found in my life, like it used to just be about how do we create the highest energy explosions of joy? Like, how do we just create more moments like that? I've realized that the softer, closer, quieter moments of gratitude, moments of witnessing people in vulnerability, like it's crazy, but I've had high amounts of joy crying with people. And so, the first thing I want to say is just music. There's different versions of joy. There's different flavors, and there's also different ways that we can use music to change our emotions and what flavors of joy we choose, right?
Yeah, like it's interesting when you said about when you go to lift weights. I wonder when because when you go to a gym, usually there's a lot of loud music, and I wonder. So in the polyvagal theory, one of the people they talk about you should listen to is Johnny Mathis, or listen to female singers because they have a great prosody to their voice. So
Yeah.
it's not like one tone. It's like it varies, and it's not low frequency. And I imagine maybe sometimes when you go to the gym, for some people, it's not just I get in my own head that these men are men and I'm not really a man. I don't know how to operate this equipment. I'm weaker than these guys. Maybe there's the
Yeah.
sounds and the noises as well that also contributes to your nervous system going out of whack. So I'm with you on that. Like I think there's it's almost like you stumbled onto something through your experience in festivals, because like everybody just goes there. Like it's like, oh yeah, wow, this works. And there's this a whole science out there to like how it works, right? So going back to that, when did you realize that joy and not pharmacology was your medicine?
Well, it started in a grim, dystopic way. I was a medic at music festivals, and I actually was a harm reduction drug tester as well. And really
Hang
just,
on.
yeah,
What's a harm reduction drug tester?
it means that I would help people take drugs safely by testing their drugs for them. Yeah. And I, that's a great step. But like ultimately, most people can agree, I think, that to not rely on external circumstances for joy, that is a great thing to learn, right? And external circumstances, things we buy, media we consume, things we eat, right? Like so many people, food is their joy. Food is like the big, and there's no doubt it's a genetic program. I love eating as well. But it's like once we expand past these genetic impulses and we can start to create joy through our mindset, through our vitality, right? Through our health behaviors. Eventually our mood just keeps elevating because our body is healthy and like energized, right? And then of course, human connection, which is an external circumstances, but it is the healthiest, most natural way for us to find joy. Like we're wired for emotional contagion. So anyway, I was a medic at all these festivals and I just witnessed the exact opposite. I witnessed young people not taking care of each other, beating each other up. I witnessed people relying on drugs to escape. And I also witnessed this like cool kid culture, right? Like being cool. And it didn't make me feel good. And so all these experiences being in these suboptimal social environments, and what is a suboptimal social environment? One where people don't come alive without drugs, and one where people are obsessed with proving themselves and looking good and gaining status, right? These are suboptimal social environments. So that just all lit a fire under my ass to start planning sober parties. And within a couple of years, my events would just go viral. At one point, I had the police commander call me on my cell phone to ask me to cancel an event. I don't think I canceled it actually. And that just evolved. From there, I became a public speaker. But it really all began. Like it all began witnessing binge substance use and the disregard people had for each other in these festival environments.
Yeah, I went to watch a Primal Scream concert in Cardiff Castle in South Wales, and they were actually playing the entire Screamadelica album, which is like one of my best albums going way back. And I was there with a friend, and I haven't had a drink for 17 years. I don't take drugs or anything like that. So I'm there, and I'm just touched by the moment and the music. Right, there's a little bit of nostalgia there as well because this album meant something to me way back in the past. But I'm listening to the music, and I'm singing, and I'm moving with the music, and I'm looking around me, and there's people banging into me. There's people throwing alcohol over me by accident. There's people not even listening to the music. They're like arguing with each other or in deep conversation with each other about something, but it doesn't look meaningful. It looks a bit nasty, right? Like there's all this stuff going on. And I have a hypothesis I want to share with you and want your comment on this.
Hypothesis. I am the party
You are the
scientist, so I
scientist.
let's put it to the test.
I actually think that if you remove all alcohol and drugs from that Primal Scream concert and Bobby Gillespie comes on and strings his guitar, I believe the energy levels and the enjoyment as a group and a community and the feeling of safety will be so much more elevated. Yeah, there might be individual people that have a difficulty with it. Maybe we can talk about that actually, about how uncomfortable some people feel about leaning into joy. But I actually think the alcohol is a red herring. I had this debate with a member in my Strive community. He talks about alcohol rich memories. Oh, I have these memories of drinking alcohol. And I said, I don't have any. Alcohol is present in those memories, but it's not the alcohol that I remember. It's the connection and it's the emotional resonance of the experience. Alcohol actually detracts from that. How do you feel about that hypothesis? You probably have experienced it.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is all the things we can use to replace alcohol to achieve the same effect and a greater effect. And yeah, you witnessed that musician come on stage and his performance would have united everyone and created this sense of awe and this sense of unity. And um, because everyone had full frontal lobe activity, they would be able to pay better attention, connect with each other better, respect each other more, and I think encourage more of that emotional intensity. Like I see fun, I see joy, I see all of those as skills. And what do you want to do in life? Do you want to develop a skill, or do you want to rely on the wisping nature of life? Like life doesn't care about you. Life's gonna throw shit at you. Life, like we are not the center of the universe, right? And so there's the neuroscience of it, right? Like the frontal lobe activity. When we've all had this experience where we're sober, we're clear-eyed, and we can have a deep connection with someone because our attention is totally there. And we're talking about alcohol right now. Another hypothesis, what would happen if people couldn't bring their phones, right? There's all this talk about alcohol. Well, what is also destroying our relationships and destroying our mental health? It's phones. And so I don't like alcohol has a massive societal harm. Alcohol depresses our frontal lobe. Alcohol is unique and it's wicked. But there's all these other substances people are using, and it's doing the same thing. It's helping us shut off our brains, and that's having a big impact. And it's causing our skills to atrophy. And this whole concept of creating joy, right? That's not often regarded as a valuable skill. Like I'm on earth to show people that they can learn to create joy with anyone, such that you walk down the street and you see limitless joy that you don't have to buy, right? You can talk to people, you can ask them encouraging questions. And I think that mindset, like, yes, if you remove the alcohol, it'd be a more unified, respectful, and safe environment. Like for women and men, I mean, we don't have to get into what people do when they're drinking, right? Emotional safety. We can create emotional safety for each other when we are intentional and we have our executive functioning, right? And what does that also mean? And I'm just like, I'm just ranting on and on here, but I'm enjoying it. What does that also mean? It means being hydrated. It means having a good sleep. It means monitoring our emotional state. You came to it. If you're emotionally dysregulated, you're not going to be able to connect with someone else. You're not going to be able to create that emotional safety such that people feel safe to share that aliveness and that joy that is so rare in our world, not only because of phones, but because of media and because of notifications and because of social norms that hold us back, right?
Well, I got two really good examples of safety, phones
Yeah.
and alcohol there, right? So if I ever go to a gig, doesn't matter what gig it is, I don't feel safe. And it's my nervous system preempting that it's going to be a large contingent of drunk people. And when people are drunk, they are unpredictable. So my nervous system is preparing me
Yeah.
for the unpredictable nature of humans, right? And so I'm always uncomfortable and unsafe when I'm going into a gig. But there's another form of safety. I'd be interested in your opinion on phones. So I went out the other day. My father-in-law was 85, so we went out for a birthday lunch. It was me, my mother, who's like in her 80s, a friend who's 86, and my father-in-law 85. So it's me with all these octogenarians, right, rocking out.
Love
And
it.
my father-in-law couldn't get off his phone, right? There's another element there of a lack of safety for me. I feel unsafe emotionally, like that, because I can't connect with him, because I can sense the uncomfortableness of his nervous system, which means he has to look at his phone constantly because he doesn't know how to communicate. And that environment also is unsafe to my nervous system. My nervous system is also kind of like pretty much on edge. Like, how are we going to deal with this situation? Because this guy is really uncomfortable. I don't know what you think about that.
Listen, you know, my question for you is well, what I'm thinking about is the relationship between there's a few different terms here that I want to introduce everyone to. And I want to remind people that if we want to have the best, most energizing relationships, our aspiration should be to create these forms of safety. And the first safety that I think you're describing is like um, secure relationships. I don't even know what form of safety that is, but when we're distracted and we're not paying attention to the people we're with, we can't feel like we're in a secure relationship with them. We don't know if they want us to be there. We don't know if they appreciate our company, if they accept us. And so I think that's like a layer of the safety conversation that you're getting at. When your father-in-law was on his phone all the time and he wasn't giving you this basic building block of relationship, which is attention and empathy, then that can damage this sense of security, this sense of like, oh, I'm valued, I'm welcome in this relationship. The two other forms of safety that I really want to emphasize, you know, part of my message is creating more joy in the world. And how I do that is I empower people to be joy makers. And joy makers essentially make it safe for people to share their joy, to express their joy, to frolic, to be excited, to share gratitude, to share compliments. All these kind of positive behaviors that can sometimes be loud and expressive. Joy makers create the safety, and that's emotional safety. And the version of safety that's really popular in organizational psychology, but it's one of the most powerful concepts I've ever come across, and it's a part of my curriculum. And every connection that I have with anyone, whether I'm hanging out at the spa or I'm on a plane, I'm not in my head, but I'm using skills to create psychological safety. And psychological safety is the opposite of interpersonal fear. So interpersonal fear is if I make a mistake, I'm going to be punished, rejected, ostracized, I'm going to be disliked. Psychological safety is okay, I can take risks, and if I make a mistake, I'm going to be celebrated. It's okay because I'm allowed to take risks. I'm allowed to try out new questions. And so I think what people are unknowingly doing when they're looking at their phone is they're really causing other people to think in their heads like, oh, maybe this person doesn't appreciate me and value me. And I think that's like relational safety, just like the goodness of the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some really great stuff there. Just to add to all that,
Yeah.
all those gems, back to polyvagal theory again.
Let's go.
When he talks about the state that you always want to be in, he calls it social engagement. So this is like when me and you are in
Oh
this
yeah.
social engagement where we're
Oh yeah.
actually connected to each other. And one of the big things with social engagement is the face. So we have something called neuroception. So we are subconsciously scanning each other and being, oh, there's a smile there, there's a twitch in his muscles, which shows that he's safe. But if you're looking at your phone, you can't see the face, so you subconsciously start to feel uncomfortable because your neuroception can't see the face. So this is why it's like when you're texting, when people text people and they get into all kinds of shit, right? Because it's like, oh, I didn't mean that. You can't see the face, so you can't feel safe. So it's almost like, okay, I'm not texting no more. I'm going to get on.
Yeah.
It is a really good example. I work in the poker industry. So the poker industry on X can be pretty toxic, right? It's everybody slagging it, and they'll get into interpersonal wars with each other. But when they're next to each other on the actual live poker table, you're expecting this big fight. Never happens. And the reason it doesn't happen is because all of a sudden you can see this person's face. You can see his face, you hear his tone of his voice, and suddenly feel a little safer than you do when you're online. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there with the face stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm really excited about what you just shared because I'm doing a new experiment recently. And by the way, I have to admit, I'm actually not looking at your face. I'm looking at the camera. But listen, okay, when I'm in person, this is my experiment. I'm practicing holding eye contact and sometimes going away, but I'm practicing really tuning in, I call it, or attuning. Attunement is the skill. And when we're attuning to someone, we're really paying attention to their body language, to their facial expression. And what that will do is it'll increase emotional empathy. And if we want to make joy more contagious, right? And the whole philosophy, by the way, of being a joy maker is when you give joy, you get more of it back because it's contagious. And so I'm doing this experiment and I'm like, is this going to weird people out? Or am I actually going to be able to empathize at a much deeper level because nothing else exists? And I'm just fully focused on the person in front of me. And I'm watching and I'm feeling joy or I'm feeling sadness in response. Um, and so far, I've weirded out a lot of people. You probably could know that about me. But so far it's going well. People aren't freaked out.
I mean that I wanted to ask you actually what is joy, but like as a precursor to that, um, I remember when I was in Burning Man and I was in this tent and we all had to walk around with our eyes closed, and then they would say, or the music would stop, and then you had to open your eyes, and the closest person you was with, you had to have like eye contact, like inches away from them with eye contact for a long time, and then you had to dance for them. And I remember while we were looking, honestly, I was walking around, I was going, please be a girl, please be a girl, please be a girl, please be a girl. And I opened my eyes and there was this guy in front of me, right? I'm like, fuck. So there's this guy in front of me. So I'm like deep connecting, looking at this guy's eyes. And we both were just tears, like so many tears.
Wow.
And I could feel around that everybody else was in the same spot. But I don't think it was sadness. I think it was joy. And that's why I was going to ask you,
Right?
like, what is joy? Because you think that joy is, and I get into my head on this. Like, it's like when my coach, I have a coach, right? And she said to me the other day, you need to play more. So every day at 5 o'clock, you got to play. So it's like play, joy. What does that mean? What does that look like? Does that get into my head? So I want to ask you, what is joy?
Oh, well, the first thing that comes to mind, then I'm going to answer your question. I've had some similar moments at Burning Man, except I was blindfolded and I was at the temple and I was hugging people who were grieving and I had blindfolds on. And it was one of the most powerful, emotionally fulfilling, like I would cry with people in my arms as they wept. And it was so special. And was it joy? now that I tell you, I feel the joy. I feel the joy. I don't know what it was, honestly. Like the technical definition of joy is it's an experience of positive emotion in the present moment. And one way that you can tell if you're feeling joy, like do you want to jump with joy? Like do you have this like energy and excitement? Like yeah, like woo. It's kind of related to fun. But I like your example. You had this moment of like intimate eye contact with a man and you cried. And one thing I've noticed about joy is I can be experiencing a different emotion with someone, but it can rapidly evolve into shared understanding, feeling safe with someone, feeling um, connected and close. And then that can rapidly evolve into joy. And so I've had these experiences of talking about really tough things with people and holding people as they experience difficulty and grieve. And those moments of connection, there's like sparks of joy in them. And so I think human connection, it's just such a roller coaster. There's all these emotions, and the goal is not to just like stay up top and just experience joy 24/7. Like these other emotions, like grief and vulnerability and being seen, those are powerful, fulfilling emotions that can bring us closer to each other. But the technical, like the real neuroscience definition is, yeah, like, you got some serotonin, it's mainly dopamine and serotonin. And then if you're sharing it with someone, then it's oxytocin and endorphins. And so the dose, D.O.S.E, that is what I try to create at my events. And that's what I'm trying to create when I'm out in the world lighting people up. I'm trying to create these moments of shared joy. And sometimes they do involve tears.
I think listening to you when you're speaking there, I know connection is really important in your work. And I'm thinking here that maybe like connection is the portal, right? So like it feels like sadness and joy, just choosing those two emotions. I love the one you use with grief as well, is they're very close together. You know, in those moments when someone's lost somebody and you're with them, there's a lot of tears, but sometimes it ends in laughter, right? So it's so, but
Right.
what is that? That's the connection. So it feels like connection is like so important. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. My belief is that, well, it's not only my belief. I'm nerdy about the research as well. The belief is that when we multiply human connection by joy, it's the greatest antidepressant. And you live in the UK, right? You have a loneliness minister in the UK. Loneliness has a bunch of health consequences, and same with sadness, right? Sadness as an emotion has consequences on our immune system and on our arteries. Um, but when we can connect around sadness, it can deepen our relationships and create this like stress buffer of relationships. But I want to, you mentioned that at 5 p.m. every day, you try to play. Like,
Try is the
yeah,
optimal word.
you try to play. Um, that to me, human connection to me, it's not about like, it's for me, it's less and less about shared beliefs, shared religion, shared language, shared ethnicity. And it's much more about just finding that common ground and realizing that you can create joy with anyone, and playfulness is one way to do that. And so I'm at the sober parties that I host, we do a lot of games which are totally nonverbal, and they bring out so much joy, right? So much human contact, and dance is an obvious example of this nonverbal connection. But really, I want everyone to understand that our mindset predicts whether or not we can create joy with anyone, but it is damn possible. I have proven it to myself over and over again. I will meet people that I initially don't like, that I judge in my head, and I will be engaged with them. I will ask them questions and I will create so much joy and I'll be fired up for the rest of the day. And so human connection is this abundant, free, organic, GMO-free source of joy, people. That's the message.
Why are
Yeah.
people so afraid of it then? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts?
Um, I think
Are you afraid? Do you talk to a lot of strangers? Do you find
uh,
yourself kind of leading interactions or what?
I do have fear, yeah. So
Yeah.
I have I very def I mean, when I was really unconscious and I was drinking a lot, I never ever thought about this stuff. And so there's a kind of protective mechanism towards not thinking about it. So I'm not thinking about why I work at this place. I'm not thinking about why these are my mates. I'm not thinking about whether I'm a good or bad dad. I'm not thinking about whether or not I'm showing up for or why we're arguing all the time with my wife. I'm just not I wasn't even thinking why am I drinking? I'm just not thinking of those things. And in some element, it's like a path of least resistance, right? There's a safety around that. And I think when I stopped drinking, and then I'm not going to go to the pub with my mates, or I'm not going to go clubbing. So now I'm not dancing. I'm not doing those things. I think over a period of time of not doing those things, that becomes your path of least resistance. So then when you end up at Burning Man or one of your events, and suddenly you have to dance and you have to move without the use of substances, there is an element of fear there that comes up. But what I've learned is that that's okay, that that's natural, that's human. And what I need in that moment is to give the fear some love, some nurturance, to speak to it, to kind of like, hey, what's kind of going on? I think I think there's always going to be a little bit of fear walking into a room of complete strangers and then having to communicate with them. I
Yeah.
can I can do it with a mask on really well. Like I could just go in and I can play the part, but I'm
Yeah.
also really good at finding the right people to connect with. That like it's almost like my radar system knows, oh, I'm going to talk to Jacques because I know I'll be able to have a deep, meaningful conversation with him versus Pete. And again, it's the nervous system, like it's the energy. Like I don't know if you work around energies at all. It's something a little bit I don't understand it, but I kind of intuitively move towards it. There's an energy. I walk in a room and I know who to gravitate towards and who to ignore. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I do struggle. Um, and maybe we could talk about like when my coach says to me, play, it's not like I don't get excited and I'm like, oh yeah, I can go play. My brain's like, what do I do? Honestly, what do I do? But I'm learning again through polyvagal theory that his theory is play isn't playing on your own. Play is playing with other human beings. That's
Yeah.
play, right? And I'm like, heck, I'm in my house playing online poker or Pokemon. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. What do you think?
Well, first of all, thanks for admitting that you have fear, and I'm gonna follow suit. I have fear too.
Mm,
Like I have fear of making people feeling uncomfortable. I have fear of saying the wrong thing and offending people, right? Um, but what I've learned is the risk is so much smaller than my mind makes it out to be. And I just continually surprise myself. So first of all, the science of happiness, like one of its greatest recommendations from all these happiness researchers like Laurie Santos, Martin Seligman, is just to like socialize more. And socializing more is enough to be happier, but what's even better is socializing better, right? Having more of these deep soul conversations, right? Um, but yeah, I continually surprise myself. I agree with you. Like we should be attuned are people receptive to us? Do they want to connect, or are they closed off? And I will gravitate toward people who celebrate my joy and who dance with me and who laugh and are goofy like me. And those are my best friends. My best friends just laugh all the time with me when I make stupid jokes and when I dance like an idiot. Like, they just laugh. It's so relaxing. I get to take off my mask. But what's even more powerful, in my opinion, is being able to even create joy with the person who's closed off. Like, and expanding that horizon. And what I found is even those people who initially seem closed off and my energy is not drawn to them, like my intuition is, don't talk to that person. I have surprised myself how interesting and beautiful and quirky and emotional those people can be. It's likely that they just don't yet feel safe to be that way. And so how can I be that force for safety for all those people? So I think it's so important to find those people who really celebrate joy. Because if you hang out with people who are skeptical of your joy and they judge energetic, excited people, you're not going to cultivate it in yourself, because you're going to get continually punished by those people. They're going to be skeptical of you. They're going to be like challenging you and wondering, like, why are you so happy? Like, I get that all the time. And those people are dead weight. If you want to be super fucking high vibe, you gotta, and they're everywhere. Like, I get thousands of comments from people online who think that I'm a fake and I'm just trying to sell shit and that I'm leading cults. Like, I get this all the time because they cannot believe that my happiness, I just want to share it with the world. I just want to share it with people. Because guess what? I feel better when I share it with more people. It's like totally selfish. Like, it's just the most rewarding thing ever. So I resonate with your experience, and it's incredible what we'll experience when we go into that discomfort and we connect with those people we wouldn't normally connect with, right?
Yeah, I think listening to saying that, I also get a great joy out of talking to somebody who, let's just say, they're quiet, they're reserved, they're not really, maybe they're on the outskirts of the main activity. I think what happens for me is I go in first, and then I need to feel safe. So I go in first and I'm subconsciously looking for and matching energy. And then once I get that and then I feel safe, then I'll move on to, oh, I'm going to speak to this person because I kind of sense, and this is a skill of joy, right? It's
Yeah.
like, so I remember reading Influence by Robert Cialdini,
Yeah, right.
and I remember him saying, and it always stuck with me, when you go into a restaurant or a cafe or something, and the person has a name tag on, like Jacques, say, "Hi, Jack, how's it going?" Or "Thank you
Yeah,
for the coffee, Jack." And you automatically see them light up.
yeah,
Um, Going out of your way to open doors for people, or you see someone struggling, you do something for them. I had a conversation with my wife once, and she said she wondered whether that was me fawning, whether like I had an inner child that wanted to people please. And I reflected on this for a long, long time, and I was like, no, I don't think it's fawning. I just want to make people feel safe, and a part of making people feel safe is, like we said, with the facial muscles and the prosody of voice. It is accessing joy. It is connected to joy. It's like an energy that you're putting out there of joyfulness, of trust, of vulnerability is another one. So like I think vulnerability and joy are connected as well. Like if I go deep and share with something with you, you might feel the reciprocity to share with me, and that is also, linked to joy. I think what my advice to people listening here would be, especially a lot of people who stop drinking and then it's like, well, how do I communicate with other people? You've got to somehow find a way to experiment and test, because like Jack said, your fear is never ever as big as you think it is. It never is. Like if you go to watch a West End show, or the big top, the circus where they're juggling. Let's say someone drops the ball, or somebody misinterprets a line. They may in the moment think, "Oh shit," right? But you, as the observer, you don't care. You're just like, "Oh, the juggler dropped some balls," and you just get on with the show. So I guess I'm using that example is like there's so much fear that prevents us from taking risks because we want to feel safe. But if you really want to make a difference in your life, and you do want to get to those levels of joy and bust through those upper limits, you've got to take risk, and you've just got to try it, and you've just got to open your mouth and let words come out with another human being, and trust that they won't ignore you, that they won't ridicule you. You know what I mean? Like in my experience, usually when you talk to another human being, they're not going to just whack. They're not going to just ride all over your boundaries, right? Like, that would maybe in an hour they might start talking about politics and religion, but usually you're okay, right? So try more, I guess, is what I'm saying, Jack.
I really love that, because my mantra is take more social risks, right? And I think it's so important if we want to light more people up, right? The first stage is probably feeling safe in ourselves to take risks. That's kind of the first stage, and I would call that internal safety, right? We don't really, that people aren't creating our safety. We're creating it for ourselves. We're cultivating that courage, and we're celebrating rejection. We're celebrating our mistakes. Once we have that, we can approach anyone, connect with anyone, approach anyone. And then the second part of that is, how do we just cultivate more of that social attunement, curiosity skills, listening skills, being really engaged, such that we can become a really good conversationalist, right? Conversationalist. And that's great. But the final stage, and what I'm really excited about, is how do we get to these places in our connections where we're truly lighting someone up, where we're both super energized. We're not drained. It's not like we're making an effort anymore. It's really energizing us. And those skills are simple as well, right? Like curiosity, leading the conversation, storytelling, telling joyful stories, getting other people to share joyful stories. And then the final stage is, how do we do this with groups? And that's called communal joy. And that's when we walk into a room and the vibe is low, and there's a way that you can help, and you respectfully and gently unite and uplift an entire room. And that's the skill that I'm trying to figure out and sharpen. And that's why I have like a spreadsheet of 200 different activities, and I do this with my boombox everywhere I go, pretty much.
Well, it sounds what you're echoing there is leadership to me. Like you're choosing to be a leader, and I think everybody has a leader within them. Like everybody is a leader, and the first part is to raise your self-awareness around when that shows up. You could get the most, you could get the most quietest, shyest human being in the world, and they have kids. They are in their own quiet moments leading those children. They might not like going to work and think they're a leader, but they're leading those children. I always say in the Strive community, it's like somebody gets past day one and they're on day two of being sober, or alcohol free as fuck, as I like to say. And I'll say to them, wow, you can lead other people now. And they're like, what do I know? I've only just got past day one. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of people that don't get past day one, right? Like, you'd be surprised how much that is of merit and benefit for other people, and will and that transaction can fulfill their soul. I used to get into my head of talking. I talk too much.
Yeah.
And I talk too much as a compensatory strategy, until I started asking people who are really close to me and love me, and who are in conversations where I maybe lead more and talk more than the other person. Hey, does it bother you that I talk too much? And the feedback that I got was, no, I love really listening to you because you're really interesting and your stories are really funny. So I like it. You make me feel safe when you're talking. So that made me realize, okay, that there's a skill here in listening more and giving people the podium more and letting them speak and listening to them being there. But don't be too concerned and worried. It's like, just ask. Just ask people. Like, I feel like an idiot. What do you think? Like, just ask people. You know what I mean? Be vulnerable. Like, how does vulnerability come into your work? Because it must do, right?
Yeah. So vulnerability has different flavors as well. But I just want to emphasize, I used to talk a lot. I used to do most of the talking, and I used to evoke a lot of joy through my stories and through my words. But now what I've realized is it's much more rewarding for me to make people feel special and to learn from them,
Mm.
right? And so now what I've noticed in my life, like yesterday even, I was hanging out with a friend and it was probably 80-20. She spoke 80% of the time and I learned so many things. I was journaling about it today. And so I think part of creating joy by connecting with anyone is discovering the joy of learning and uncovering these beautiful life experiences people have had, and every single person you meet has had them, right? And vulnerability often comes with disclosure, right? We can practice vulnerability by sharing verbally, but then there's also just the vulnerability of sharing an emotion. Vulnerability popularized by Brene Brown, she talks about this very darker, sadder version of vulnerability when I I would say that it's much more acceptable to be super sad. Like people are gonna accept that more than if you're super crazy happy. People are gonna be skeptical of that shit. So I think we need to view vulnerability like lighthearted vulnerability versus the more conventional vulnerability, and both can create safety. And to me, taking social risks, that's what vulnerability is. When you take a social risk, you are being vulnerable because someone can criticize you. You're doing something different, you're shutting down your social autopilot, and you're making yourself vulnerable to people regarding you as weird or disrespectful or too much. So, sharing these moments, sharing these emotions of sadness or joy, both of those can create the safety that we've been talking about in this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's your style? Do you focus on one or the other?
I would
What's your default?
say in the past I would probably talk more than the other person.
Yeah.
And then actually I would say in the last year I got into TV production more. So I was doing creating TV shows and documentaries, and I was the chief interviewer. And I learned that the more I speak, the more difficult it is to actually cut
Yeah.
while I'm speaking, or like I can't use the other person's piece because I've said something or interrupted, right? So it actually trained me. It trained me to shut the fuck up, basically. And as I've taken a step back, it's now my parts that are my parts that feel unsafe with silence, and my parts that feel unsafe in the lack of noise are not unsafe no more, which means I don't fill that space, which means I found that there's a lot of people that just need time, and they never had the time with me in the past. Now they have the time because my nervous system isn't being thrown out of whack. So that's kind of been my transformation. But what I loved about what you said there, I think is really important, is the vulnerability. We do know, like the vulnerability of sadness and but you talking about society almost accepting grief, mourning, suicidal ideation, all that kind of dark stuff, and the darker side of what happens to us as human beings. But the lighter stuff, people having real problems with that. Like, I'm really grateful you said that, because that will scare people. People will be thinking, well, I can't be joyful and I can't be fun because the community I'm in just thinks I'm weird. So it will kind of stop you. So I'm really glad that you said that. And I just want to say, I think it's fear. So coming on this podcast, there's a part of me afraid that you're going to get me to do a load of what I call in my head stupid shit to make me feel joyful and funny. And there's a part of me worried. Yeah, there's a part of you like, you're going to tell me to take my clothes. So my fear, my fear can translate into a judgment of you. So I think that's important. Like, if someone's listening, it's not you, it's them, it's the other person's problem, right? Like, and I think once you recognize that the other person is unsafe in this moment, you can actually have compassion in their judgment. And
Absolutely.
I think that helps you with, because one aspect is they're judging me, so I'm going to judge them back, which is disconnection, versus they're judging me, but I'm going to have compassion with their judgment, which allows connection, right? Which then allows joy.
Yeah. There's a lot I want to build off here. It's funny that you bring that up and use me as an example, because I get that so much. And it hurts. It hurts to be misunderstood, but I have compassion and I understand. Like, very few people are as public with their joy as I am. And that's really my mission on this planet, is to like normalize more joy everywhere, like even on public transit, right? um, but you're really hitting on this part of mindset. And these people who judge someone before they've connected with them, they are destroying any possibility of having a joyful connection with that person. And we're sober people, and some people may have struggled with judging non-sober people or drug users or people on drugs. And the mindset that we have, it creates disconnection. It makes us not interested in putting in the effort to create a beautiful connection with someone who is drinking or someone who's doing drugs. And so I think we need to really introspect and evaluate that mindset. Where are we preventing ourselves from having these energizing connections with people because we're judging their drug use, religion, political beliefs, right? There's so many ways that we can isolate ourselves and distance ourselves. But when we just put that aside and we are present with the full version of the person in front of us, we're always going to be surprised. I bet you if my both my fans online and you as well, your supporters and your detractors or your critics, if they sat down with you one-on-one, I'm sure they would all really like you. And that's the case with every person you meet on the street. Yes, there's psychopaths. Yes, there's selfish manipulator people out there, but very few. Most people, if you sit down with them for 30 minutes and you listen to them tell you a story about how they were born and a magical life experience they've had, you're going to leave with a smile and you're going to be so happy that you talked to them. That's right.
100%, 100%, 100%. And I've been learning that because I'm here in LA on my own. My wife and my children are in the UK at the moment, and I've been hanging around with people in their 80s. And
Wow.
I realized that there's almost like a societal conditioning that when you're with old people, you either don't talk to them or you talk to them about really simple things. And also they're Korean, so the language barrier is very difficult. So I've been in social situations with them thinking, they're human beings with vastly more experience than I have. I'm actually going to ask them some really deep, emotional, evoking, controversial, risky questions about their life and their opinions, because I think it matters to them. Imagine being 80 and every single time you go to a family gathering, everybody ignore. I'm thinking of the granddads in particular. Everybody just ignores you. So no wonder you're on your phone, right? Because all they say is the same old shit. Hey, granddad, how's it going? Are you 45 now or 85? Like, and he's probably thinking, fuck, I wish my life would end because this is just like everyone it doesn't see me. So it's like, yeah, 100%, 100%. Anyway, Jack, go.
I want to wrap up with
Yeah.
one important point there. Doesn't it feel so good when people want to learn about us, our wisdom, our life experiences? When we have someone who's genuinely curious like that, it feels so good, right? And I've learned that the reverse is also true. When we can ignite that feeling of, wow, I'm an interesting person, I have lessons to share, that can feel good for us as well. And that's what it's like to light people up. So we covered a lot of ground, Lee.
Well, 100%. I always tell people this. If you go into a bar and someone offers you a drink and you say no because you're on this journey of being alcohol free as fuck, and they say why, and you make up some bullshit story that you're on antibiotics or you've got to drive or you're just doing a 1 week health kick because of the shame, right? That you're worried that this person will ostracize you. When people, from the moment I stopped 17 years ago, someone say to me, why are you not drinking then, Lee? You drink all the time. I'm not drinking because it's destroying my marriage. It's turning me into an horrific husband. It's turning me into a terrible father. Here are some of the things I'm doing as a father. Here are some of the things I'm doing as a husband. I never had anybody say to me what an idiot I am or hated me or what I found is people asked questions and people connected because they were behaving in exactly the same way. So I get to feel good, they get to feel good, but everyone is so terrified of like that they can't see that and they can't experience it, which goes back to what we were saying earlier on. You've got to find that leader within you. You've got to take social risk and you've got to have a go and just trust in the human race, right? Anyway, Jack, what are you up to at the moment? Like, how can people listening to this benefit from, because you said joy is a skill. There's a lot of people listening to this who are really struggling to access it. How can you help them?
I have a bunch of free email courses on my social media. So I'm going to be putting out a lot more content on social media, even though I really dislike social media. Yeah, I have a leadership retreat, which is more focused on leaders. And then I also have a free email course focusing on joy habits. Joy habits. I've also published an audiobook on joy habits. And the only thing you need to know is prioritize your sleep because it'll enhance everything in your life, including your joy.
Wonderful. All right. I will send that's your website, right? And
That's
your
right. I'll send it to you.
Instagram? Is that Instagram?
That's right.
Okay, I'll put everybody to send you there in the show notes. I just want to say thank you very much for choosing to, move away from the path of least resistance. Take the contrarian life almost and like really do something that is so important in the world, which is you could have just easily have just been in pharmacology, made a bunch of money, been really bored with your life, and you haven't chosen to do that. And I know that choice probably come with a lot more difficulties and challenges in your life. So thank you for spreading joy because the world needs it. Thank you very much.